Hello everyone, my name is Justin, aka Ghost Reader, and today I'm going to be doing part 2 of my February wrap-up. So that is going to include my Re-readathon reads and the graphic novels that I read in February. So let's go ahead and jump right on in. So, for Callus Reads Re-readathon for the month of February, you had to reread a book that you read in among your favorite books that you read in middle school, high school, and college. So I'm actually going to go in the order of um, middle school, college, and then high school and you'll see why. So my first book that I reread, which was from middle school, was Gary Paulson's Hatchet. So basically, this book is about boy Brian Robeson. He's 13 years old, and he's going to see his dad in Canada, and his plane goes down when the pilot has a heart attack, and he has to survive out in the Canadian wilderness. I really liked this book in middle school because Brian is a very smart kid. He uses his resources very well to survive out in the wilderness, and myself, I really appreciated that because he was a very intelligent 13-year-old, and I myself was very jealous of the fact that he could do the stuff that he did. Because if I was out in the wilderness, I probably would have just died after the first couple of days. But basically, the book name is Hatchet because his mom gives him this hatchet just before he gets on the plane, and that ends up being a very important tool while he's out in the wilderness surviving. So I really liked Gary Paulson's Hatchet when I was in middle school, and still liked it when I reread it this past month. My Re-readathon read for my favorite read in college was Isaac Asimov's Foundation. This is a sci-fi novel by Isaac Asimov. The inspiration for this novel was the decline and fall of the Roman Empire, in which the author Edward Gibbon details what he thinks contributed to the fall of the Roman Empire. So basically, this guy, Harvey Shelton, has come up with this science called psychohistory that allows him to predict the mass movements of people and what's going to happen with mass amounts of people, like trillions of people in the Galactic Empire. He predicts that it's going to fall. But what he proposes is that they set up two foundations at either end of the galaxy to preserve knowledge. And basically, since he can basically predict how things are going to happen in the future, he puts the foundation sets this foundation up to be in situations where they will be forced to make decisions that will shorten that dark age. And that's basically the first book goes through the first three crises that they face, and then there's like a whole series, the second foundation. I don't remember all the names of the other ones, but I have all of them except for one, which is Foundation Earth. So I'm going to definitely be reading the other ones. Well, reading the other ones, because I think I've only read this one, the second Foundation. I'm going to be reading the rest of the series later. But very, very good book if you like sci-fi, and this is a very good book. Isaac Asimov is also the guy who wrote I, Robot. So if you've seen the Will Smith movie, I mean, if you haven't read the book, you may have seen the Will Smith movie. That was based on his work. Now, my high school favorite read, I did the last because it was actually a collection of comics, and the rest of my reads are graphic novels, so I thought it'd be a good segue into the graphic novels that I read. So my high school reread is Secret Wars, and basically in this comic, the heroes and their villains are basically drawn into this war on this planet called Battleworld by this powerful being called Beyonder. So basically, he snatches them from Earth, puts them on this world, and says that fight, and if you win the fight, I'll give you whatever you wish for. So basically, it's the heroes and the villains duking it out. Basically, the heroes are just trying to survive, while the villains are trying to kill the heroes because they really want to get that wish for whatever they want. The reason this event happened, which is one of the first major crossovers in comic book history of so many different titles, is that a toy company came to Marvel and said, we want to we want to make toys from Marvel heroes. Could you do a comic book to kind of promote the toy sale, the sale of the toys? And that's how Secret Wars came about. And one of the biggest one of the biggest consequences of Secret Wars is that Spider-Man gets the black suit, which is the symbiote villain in this series, and that was one of the biggest consequences of this. And Venom is still a major player in Marvel today, and he's actually getting his own movie later this year. So I really enjoyed that one because it was great, great artwork, great story, and I really liked it in high school. And it's actually one of the books that kind of fueled that love for comic books that I still have today. All right, so the rest are my collected comic reads, volumes of collected comic reads that I read. And the first one I'm going to talk about is Monstress by Marjorie Liu and Sana Takada. I talked about reading volume 2 in March, and basically Monstress is about this girl, Micah. She is what is called arcanic. Yes, arcanic, basically, which are kind of a cross between, they're like the anthropomorphic animals in a way, but they're kind of halfway between anamorphic animals and human beings. Some actually look human like Micah, and some are more animal-like. And basically there's this sect of humans called the Kimea, who basically harvest arcanics for the magic that is stored in them. And there's been this huge war fought over this, and it's just recently ended. And basically arcanics are kind of like second-class citizens in this world when going into human towns. And basically Micah is trying to figure out what is happening to her, because she has something living inside of her that comes out of her amputated arm and causes a lot of destruction and kills a lot of people. She's trying to figure out how it got there and how her mother plays, what part her mother played in this thing being there. So this is really a really great comic. Talks a lot about war and dealing with the after effects of war, being how it feels to be treated as a second-class citizen when looked at as nothing more than something as a resource to be harvested. And the artwork for this is what drew me in. It's just absolutely amazing. And I'm really glad I picked this up, because I had no idea what it was when I picked it up. So I was like, I'm not sure if I'm going to like this, and I ended up really liking it. And it's something I'm going to continue to read as they put out the collected volumes of it. So the next book I'm going to talk about is Exo Manowar. It is by the comic book company Valiant, which is an up-and-coming comic book company. This is by Matt Kent, Clayton Crane, and Renato Guedes. And basically in this book, this guy has basically a sentient suit that basically helps him fight. And he's on this world that is trapped in the cycle of warfare. And over this is actually volume 3 of this series. In the first 2 volumes, the first volume, he didn't want to be involved in this war because he's a human among the aliens on this world, and he doesn't want to be involved, and he gets drawn into it. By the second volume, he's basically become a general in the army that he's fighting with, and by this book, he's basically come to terms with the fact that this is his role now, and that he's probably going to have to step into the role of being emperor, which is the name of this volume, Emperor. And he finds out that's not all that easy once he steps into this role to keep everyone at peace. And not everyone likes him. So now there are some interesting characters that are coming to kill him, and you'll see more of them in the next volume. So I really like the story and the artwork in this one as well. So this is one that I'm going to continue to collect. Another book that I picked up, because out of the blue, I really didn't know much about it, but heard good things about it, was Paper Girls by Brian Vong and Cliff Chiang. And basically this is set in the 80s and is about these 4 newspaper girls in this small town who they're out delivering newspapers, and then something happens where almost everyone in the town disappears, and basically they get caught up in kind of like this interdimensional time traveling really crazy event happening in their town, and they're trying to figure things out, and it's really good. It kind of reminds you of Stranger Things. I have heard some complaints about the homophobic things that they do say in this, since this was the 80s, and for some people that may be a bit much. But I like this series. I like the fact that you really don't know everything that's going on. You kind of have to learn as you go. So I actually will probably continue this. This now on my like high priority list, but I did like the first volume, and I may pick up the second volume if I get the chance. But Paper Girls, Volume 1. The other book that I picked up, just kind of because they had this book, Paper Girls, and the next book I'm going to talk about, and also Monstress, I picked up at Barnes & Noble's when they were having their, which they have if you buy 2 graphic novels, essentially you get the third one free. So a lot of these I just picked up just to see like what they were like, because I heard good things about them, or at least I heard about them before. So the next one I picked up was Kill or Be Killed by Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips, and Elizabeth Breitweiser. And basically the main protagonist in this book is a vigilante, and this is basically the origins of why he's doing why he is a vigilante. And basically he tries to kill himself one day, but he fails, and he thinks that's the end of it. He's like, because when he goes to kill himself, he realizes he actually wants to live, but it's too late. He's already committed to it, but he ends up surviving. He thinks that's it. He'll just go home and go to sleep. But however, a demon comes to him and says like, no, you're gonna have to pay for that, and basically you have a debt that needs paying. So you have to kill a bad person every month or every 30 days or you die. And at first he's like, no, I don't want to do it. But then this is basically him coming to terms with the fact that he has to, or he's gonna die. So I mean, it wasn't a bad read. It was good, but I don't think I'm going to go on to the next one. It didn't draw me in enough for me to want to buy the next volume and see what happens. But it was a good first volume. I basically picked it up because I was looking for something with a lot of text in it, because I wanted it to like really last for a while. And sometimes you can like blow through some graphic novels or volumes like this of collected comics. So I really wanted something a bit wordy, and that's why I picked that one up, because it is one that it's a lot of text or a lot of exposition to read. So the last book, last graphic novel collected comic volume that I read was The Wiccan Divine by Kieran Gillian, Jamie McKelvey, and Matthew Wilson. Basically in this book, a girl is drawn into the world of these gods, and the gods basically they come back on a cycle. So every 90 years they come back. They live, I believe, for like 2 years as a person doing whatever they want. And this go round, they're all musicians. I'm not sure if they're that like every single time they come back, but in this cycle, there are basically these musicians that draw in lots of crowds of people because they really enjoy their music. And this girl is one of them, and she meets Lucifer, who draws her into this world. And basically Lucifer gets accused of a crime, and then the girl is going out and trying to find basically try to prove Lucifer's innocence, because she doesn't believe that Lucifer did it. I like the idea behind Wiccan Divine, but the story didn't grab me enough for me to want to continue the series on. At least not like buying the series for myself. If someone loaned it to me, then perhaps. But it was okay. I think the what I like best about the Wiccan Divine was the artwork. The artwork was really well done. So I probably won't pick up any more Wiccan Divine, even though I know like some people absolutely love it, but I don't think it's really for me. But that being said, I enjoyed all my reads. I did a lot of reading in February. Actually, I was reading these books when I should have been actually reading the books that were on my African American TBR, which basically led to me like reading like 5 books in 7 days over like the last part of February. So I'm gonna try not to do that this month. But what did you guys read in February, and did you enjoy them? If you did, leave a comment in the comment section below. If you like this video, please hit the like button, and if you want to see more from me, please subscribe. And I don't have, oh wait, gotta put on the hat. And as always, keep reading.